underdog, sympathetic hero, long shot, loser. Whatever you want to call them, writing these guys can be tricky. It is why we only have a few good ones, like Poe, Miles Morales, and Hiccup, whereas there are a number of terrible ones, like Oscar, Arthur, Raya, and so on. So how do you write a believable underdog? And how do you not? Surprised a girl misses you is something a guy with no game would probably say, and it sets the stage for one of the first things you need to write a believable underdog. But first, let's go back a little. You see, after the Spider-Man of Miles' world finishes his monologue, the movie switches to the scene where Miles is seen painting as the song Sunflower by Post Malone and Swae Lee plays. Before Miles joins in the lyrics, he clears his throat as most people would. We see very quickly that he doesn't really know the lyrics, and he doesn't even have the voice of a singer. At one point, he tries to vocalize like Swae Lee, except he doesn't hit the right notes. He doesn't even come close. What this shows is a real person with flaws. He knows he doesn't know how to sing, but in the comfort of his room, where there is no one to judge him, he sang his heart out, pretending to be on stage. Poe also has a similar beginning, where he's playing with action figures, but visualizing himself as a real warrior. And even better, he's a warrior who thinks the actual warriors, the Furious Five, are in awe of him.
Five! Bowed in respect to this great master.
But then we cut to real life and discover that Poe is just acting out a play with action figures of his heroes, the Furious Five. Hiccup also starts off pretending. Born in Berk, nothing makes you a respected Viking more than killing a dragon. Hiccup hasn't because physically and mentally, it is impossible for him. The guy is skinny and awkward, and every time he comes out to help during dragon raids, he ends up making things worse. Yet this doesn't stop him from pretending to be a true Viking.
Who, me? No, come on, I'm way too muscular for their taste.
What each movie has done so far is to establish the underdog through pretense. But this is not enough. You have to be able to show us that the underdog is also a loser. Okay, let's go back to Miles. He doesn't know how to sing a song. So what? Many people don't, and it's not like the movie is about musicians. If it were, then this makes him a loser immediately. The loser part would come later when Miles is dropped off at his new school by his father, Jefferson. Here, Jefferson creates the opportunity for the school to ridicule him, even though not intentionally. High schoolers are pretty mean, so when his father told him to say, "I love you, Dad," over his PA, everyone heard and started to mock Miles with it. So as he walks through the school halls, we find out that he is not exactly liked by the people in his new school, no matter how he tries to make them like or talk to him.
Hey, good morning. How you doing? Weekend was short, huh?
Additionally, he can never quite catch up with other students, and always seem to be in a hurry to get to his next class. His stack of books also grows in height with every passing period, and the kid just looks stressed as hell. Here, he's careless, lacks confidence, and is socially awkward. So, yep, a loser. But the movie does something interesting by creating a mirror life for Miles. You see, even though these guys don't like him in his new school, back home in his Brooklyn neighborhood, they love him. This is why we get that interaction where a girl admits to missing Miles. What this tells us is that in establishing a loser, you don't have to make them lose at everything. If they do, the audience will not exactly like them. So, in establishing the underdog, you also need to give them an edge. What is that thing they know how to do so well, even better than every other character in the movie? For Miles, he's an artist who is also incredibly intelligent. We saw this early when he was painting homemade art and later when he drew graffiti with his Uncle Aaron. As for his intelligence, after the teacher said he was late, he told her that, according to Einstein, time is relative. We also see him intentionally fail a test that he knew all the answers to.
The only way to get all the answers wrong is to know which answers are right. You're trying to quit.
But perhaps more importantly, Miles shows us early that he likes to do things his own way. And this is important because it is this trait that would help him later to become one of the best Spider-Men ever. Where most people would tie their shoelaces, Miles lets his hang loosely, not caring whether it causes him to trip and fall or not. That might be careless, but it also shows someone who likes to be different, to do things their own way. This kind of dynamic is also seen with Hiccup and Po. After the panda is knocked out of his daydreaming by his father, we meet him on the floor. He tries several times to kick himself up, but his gigantic stomach won't let him. When he eventually does get up, he continues to play with his action figures until he discovers that his neighbor is staring at him awkwardly. Embarrassed, he ducks to hide.
Oh, let's go!
Rushing out of the room, he attempts to stick a ninja star on the wall. But guess what? He fails at this again. Then he falls down the stairs. Ladies and gentlemen, our loser. However, for the good traits, Po is sensitive, like how he doesn't want to hurt his father's feelings when he lies about the dream he had, or even when his dad asked him to take the cart to the Jade Palace when he didn't want to. Po can also be very creative and determined, as seen in how much he tried to get into the Jade Palace despite his many failures. Let's not forget that he is funny and a very good cook, or even how extremely passionate he is about Kung Fu. He knows every move and can name every fighting instrument. Eating is probably the only thing that compete with his love for Kung Fu.
I love Kung Fu!
As for Hiccup, he gets in the way of people who actually fight dragons. He can hardly lift the weapons used for fighting, and physically, he is far from his father. He is so terrible that when given a choice between going to war or looking after him, people chose war.
Those who stay will look after Hiccup.
Loser alert, folks. Yet Hiccup is industrious, as his knowledge in engineering helped him create the Mangler cannon that helped him trap Toothless. And rather than relying on brute strength, like most Vikings, he focused on his intelligence and strategic thinking. He was also very compassionate and empathetic. Take note of all of this, as we will need them later. So now your underdog has shown you that they are flawed. They are a loser, but they also have unique traits that give them an advantage over everyone else. But they still need something important before they are ready to overcome their failures. And the truth is, this thing brings even more failures. So your underdog actually needs a goal. They have to want something, and you have to give them what they want so you can embarrass the shit out of them. Sounds harsh, but stay with me. In Kung Fu Panda, Po was accidentally made the Dragon Warrior. He has spent all his life dreaming about knowing Kung Fu, and suddenly he has it. Yet he is not jumping for joy because this wasn't how he or anyone thought they could get Kung Fu. If you were in Po's world, you'd expect years of training with the best to learn even the basics of martial arts. But here, Po was bumped up to the top to claim the ultimate prize of Dragon Warrior, without putting in the work first. When you think about it, it is an unfair twist of fate because there are those who have been training their whole lives for it. There's Tigress, the other members of the Furious Five, and even a certain raging snow leopard called Tai Lung. Yet the big fat panda got the title. And you think this won't come with a lot of embarrassment and rejection? Of course it will, and Master Shifu begins the humiliation ritual. He makes Po train with the Furious Five, knowing he can't do it. The panda asks to start at level 0, but Shifu says there is no such thing until Po completes his disastrous drills.
How did I do?
There is now a level 0.
That night, it got even worse. Po is walking behind the Furious Five and hears them making fun of him. Mantis says the ground shakes when he walks. Tigress says he's a disgrace and should be gone by morning. And Monkey says Po can't even see his toes. Hiccup follows a similar path. He was lucky enough to shoot down a dragon, even better, a Night Fury. Yet no one believes him. What they saw instead was the destruction he caused afterwards, because that is what they've been used to when it comes to him.
Oh, yeah, many things, Hiccup, but a dragon killer is not one of them.
That sentence hangs over the entire movie. Then Hiccup finds Toothless trapped in the forest and finally gets the exact thing he wanted. The Night Fury lies helpless in front of him. This should have been the greatest moment of his life. Instead, he freezes. He raises the knife, but when he looks directly into Toothless's eyes, the fantasy of being a Viking hero evaporates. Then he cuts the dragon free, and now the humiliation becomes personal because Hiccup suddenly realizes he cannot even become the kind of Viking his own village respects. After this, dragon training begins, and the movie turns Hiccup into Burke's punching bag. Gobber introduces the class while Astrid, Snotlout, Roughnut, and Toughnut all stare at Hiccup like he wandered into the wrong movie. Gobber openly says Hiccup's small size and weakness might actually keep him alive because dragons may mistake him for somebody already sick. At dinner, the other kids laugh at him. Roughnut says his biggest mistake was showing up, and Toughnut adds that Hiccup's mistake was not getting eaten. The most embarrassing part for him is when he tries to show his dad and the villagers that dragons are not who they thought they were. Unfortunately, this ends badly.
Stop the fight!
Miles Morales has a goal that is a bit different, but his embarrassment is just as real. He becomes Spider-Man by accident and feels like he has to save the world because Peter Parker gave him an override key to stop Kingpin's collider. Clueless about how his power works, Miles gets in an embarrassing situation with his crush.
Please? Ow, ow, ow! Calm
Let
down,
go.
it's fine, just... Ow.
Later, Miles meets even more spider people, like a spider pig and a girl with a robot. He wants to help, but they all put him to the test, and he fails. He can't turn invisible when he wants to, and he can't use his spark powers. And they're all visibly disappointed in him. Peter even has to stand up for him because the others think he is a letdown. Miles feels so bad that he turns invisible by accident and leaves. Notice how all three of these guys are at their lowest point here. They tried to do the thing they thought they wanted, but the world laughed at them. Yet this is the most important part of the story. If they were good at everything right away, we wouldn't care about them. This is the problem with some of the underdogs we will meet later. As for Miles, Poe, and Hiccup, we love them because we see them get hit, laughed at, and told they don't belong. It's sad, but you have to break your hero into pieces before you can build them back up, which is why this next part is the sweetest. After spending almost half the movie getting crushed by the world around them, something interesting starts happening to these underdogs. The same traits that got them mocked become the reason they rise. And this right here is where good underdog stories separate themselves from average ones, because the goal never involved turning Poe into Tigress, Hiccup into Stoic, or Miles into Peter Parker. Their stories push them toward becoming better versions of themselves instead. Take Poe for example. Shifu spent days trying to train him the same way he had trained the Furious Five, with pain, discipline, and endless drills. Yet every single session ended with Poe screaming in agony, while half the training hall exploded around him. Then, one morning, Shifu notices that the panda moves like a completely different person whenever food is involved.
Yet you are 10 feet off the ground and have done a perfect split.
The same guy who could barely survive the training course starts matching Shifu move for move during the dumpling challenge, and the movie treats this moment seriously. Shifu finally understands the problem. Poe could never become Tigress because Poe was just Poe. He just had to be himself. He also won over the Furious Five by being himself. He cooked them a nice meal and told jokes. At some point in How to Train Your Dragon, Hiccup starts growing for the same reason. Earlier in the movie, every Viking saw his kindness as a weakness. Burke respected giant muscles, loud voices, and dragon kills. Hiccup brought inventions and questions instead. Then Toothless changes everything. While the other teens study the dragon manual, looking for ways to kill dragons, Hiccup studies dragons directly. He watches how they move, what they fear, and what they like. And because of this, dragon training completely changes for him. The same kid who almost died against the Gronkle dragon suddenly becomes the best student in the arena. And then there's Miles. He spends most of the story trying to become somebody else's version of Spider-Man until the dorm room scene. Here, Miles asks Peter when he would know that he is Spider-Man, and Peter gives him a line that changed the whole movie.
You won't. It's a leap of faith.
Then his father arrives outside the door at the perfect time to give him the perfect pep talk. And soon, Miles' hands stop shaking. The Venom powers activate naturally, and the invisibility activates on command. That moment matters because Miles gains control after finally accepting himself. The famous leap of faith scene works because the movie spent so much time showing Miles fail beforehand. Earlier, the kid could barely swing across a street without smashing into walls. Now, he dives off a skyscraper upside down while the city rises behind him.
Like, what's up, danger?
Truth is, every underdog reaches a point where training or external validation, or even a dragon scroll, becomes useless. What would matter then is that the underdog trusts himself. Every victory that comes after depends solely on this. Whether it's Poe defeating Tai Lung, Miles stopping Kingpin, or Hiccup killing the Red Death, it all depends on them doing things their way. That's the magic trick behind Believable Underdogs. The audience spends the beginning of the movie laughing at their weirdness, weakness, awkwardness, and mistakes. Then the story slowly turns those same traits into power. But have you noticed something so far? Many of these underdog stories kind of follow a certain formula. Establish them as a loser, give them their goal so you embarrass them with it, and then make them rise. Yet, they work. People might shout over stories becoming formulaic, but still connect to them emotionally. So why is this the case? The 2026 movie GOAT helps us with the answer. Look, a lot of people called the movie predictable and cliche, and honestly, they're right. 30 minutes into the movie, you already know Will Harris probably ends up helping the Vineland Thorns win the claw. But the movie still works for a simple reason. It understands relatability. Because underneath the animated animals, lava arenas, and roar-ball action, GOAT is basically channeling the real-life story of Steph Curry, the greatest shooter in basketball history. Back in the late 2000s, Curry entered basketball at a weird time, when the NBA still worshipped size and power. So, scouts looked at him and saw a skinny kid who looked too small for the league. Even after he played amazingly during the 2008 tournament run, people still questioned him. In 2009, several reports talked about his thin frame and whether he could survive against bigger players. The exact same fear exists inside GOAT. The world of Roarball literally divides players into bigs and smalls. Rhinos crash through defenders, and giraffes dominate space. Meanwhile, Will Harris is a goat delivering food for a diner while struggling to pay rent. The movie immediately places him beneath everybody else physically.
Boom! Shakalaka!
GOAT keeps grounding its story in situations people already recognize. Will goes viral through a highlight clip online and suddenly gets attention from the Thorns. That feels modern because sports culture actually works like that now. Then the movie gives us Jet Fillmore, and honestly, her storyline may be the smartest part of the film. You see, Jet carries the pressure every aging superstar faces eventually. She has records, fame, and scoring titles. Yet fans still mock her because she never won a championship. One insult follows her everywhere. All stats, no claw. Charles Barkley heard it for decades. Joel Embiid, James Harden, and Russell Westbrook all hear it now. That realism keeps the formula alive emotionally. because audiences already understand these fears before the movie even begins. That is why predictable underdog stories still connect with people. The structure is familiar, yes, but the experience is real, and GOAT understands that better than most people give it credit for. Now, let's talk about where underdog stories completely fall apart. So far, we have seen that the magic recipe for a believable underdog is simple. You start by making them a bit of a loser with real flaws. Then you give them moments of humiliation. Finally, you let them rise by turning those exact flaws into their biggest strengths, while making sure the audience can relate to the struggle. But sometimes even big movies with famous characters mess this up. They create heroes that feel like underdogs on the outside, but inside, they have nothing to overcome. Asha from the 2023 movie Wish is a great example of how not to do this. She is a 17-year-old girl living in a kingdom where the king keeps everyone's wishes. But Asha never truly feels like an underdog because the story gives her everything without making her work and suffer for it. She starts the movie already being beautiful, smart, and a favorite in the kingdom. When she goes to see King Magnifico for a job, she is the top candidate. Even when she opposes the king, she does not have to use her own wit or a unique quirk to win. Instead, a magical star literally falls from the sky to do the hard work for her.
You kind of look like a star. Okay, you can't beat.
She gets a magic wand, and suddenly she is on equal footing with a powerful sorcerer. Because she is already so perfect and compassionate from the first minute, there is no real growth. A believable underdog needs to change, but Asha stays the same while the world around her changes to fit her needs. She never faces a true moment of humiliation that she has to crawl back from using a hidden talent. Then there is Arthur from The Sword and the Stone. Even though he is an orphan who gets bossed around by his foster brother Kay, he fails the underdog test because he's passive. Things basically just happen to Arthur. Merlin, the wizard, shows up and decides to change Arthur's life. Also, the kid is always being saved by someone else, like Archimedes the owl or Merlin. When the big moment comes on New Year's Day at the tournament in London, Arthur pulls the sword from the stone simply because he forgot Kay's sword and needed a replacement. This is the opposite of a believable underdog. A real underdog wins because they find a way to succeed when the world says they cannot. Arthur wins because he was born to win, which makes his struggle feel like he is just waiting for the crown to fall on his head. Oscar from Shark Tale has a different problem. He's definitely a loser at the start, working at a whale wash and dreaming of fame, but he's not a hero we want to cheer for. A believable underdog needs a heart, but Oscar is selfish and shallow. He takes a precious pink pearl from his friend Angie, who loves him, and he gambles it away on a race.
5,000 on lucky day to win. Oscar, the millionaire.
When he gets the title of Shark Slayer, it is a total lie. He lets everyone believe he killed a shark named Frankie just so he can live in a penthouse at the top of the reef. The issue here is that Oscar's rise is built on being fake. Even when he realizes he's a jerk, the movie spends so much time showing him being arrogant and mean to his friends that it's hard to relate to him. By the time he tells the truth, the damage is done. Raya from Raya and the Last Dragon also struggles with being a believable underdog. She is a warrior princess who is already the best at everything. She is fast, strong, and knows how to fight from the very beginning. Her only real flaw is that she does not trust people. But in a world full of people who keep betraying her, that actually seems like a smart choice rather than a personal weakness she needs to fix. Like Asha, Raya's journey is supported by a magical dragon who does most of the heavy lifting. When you look at these four characters, the pattern is clear. Asha and Raya are too perfect, Arthur is too passive, and Oscar is too selfish. None of them truly uses a personal quirk or a hidden strength to overcome a mountain of humiliation. They either have magic handed to them, or they are just waiting for their destiny to arrive. But to write a believable underdog, you have to let them be messy, let them fail, and then let them find the answer inside themselves, not in a magic wand or a lucky accident. Rango is another well-written underdog, but we skipped his journey here because his story belongs in a much darker conversation. To see the nightmare that forces a hero to grow up or get stepped on, check out our video on why Rattlesnake Jake is the perfect terrifying villain.